Okay. So last week we talked about selectors and what are selectors. If you remember the upper class, we're talking about CSS syntax, and we said we're talking about CSS syntax, and we said the how it is the selector. Let me go back there so that we can flow with it. Yeah, we said you have the selector, and then you now have the block of code, which is where you write whatever you want to add to that particular selector. And we say the selector is like your tag and that. So basically, now we came to understand what was selector. We understand that CSS selector is a particular keyword that we use to style and or select or apply style to an HTML element. It's like the address to that particular HTML. When we use like a link, when you send a link to a particular page, how you get to that place. So how you target that particular element is what that selector is. And we had type of selectors basically. And we said the types of selectors are the universal selector, the type selector, the class selector, and the ID selector. Then we went further to understand them individually. So we have the basic selector, which is the basic selectors that you have is only the universal selector and the type selector. Which is so we say what is this universal selector? Universal selector is signified by an asterisk. An asterisk means like a selector option. It is used to select everything that has to do with the web browser. So any style that is placed inside the universal selector affects any tag, anything that is written in the HTML. The universal selector affects it. Now we take the type selector. The type selector basically means using the HTML tag to target it. Now we said an HTML tag, which is the type selector, target element by the tag name. So if you want to tag as you have a particular style that you want all your that particular element should have, let's say like your p tag. If one there's a style that you want your p tag to be like, you want all your p tag to be as big as 30 pixels. So you can use the p tag to target it like that. So mostly that's when you use it type selector. And we made mention of it in the last class that you only use the universal selector for your margin and padding, like the fonts family. Why? Because those are just the few crucial things that you want to be general. Then you use your type to, like when you have something that you want it to be general to into that particular tag. Now let's say you have all your H1 and you just want it to be as bold and all be color blue. So that's when you use your type selector. He said the major selector that she used is the class selector. Now we say what is this class selector? So it's a class selector lets you target one or multiple elements that share the same class. I recall when we were treating HTML, we talk about class and we said class is something that a class is just done by having a class attribute in the opening tag and assigning the name of the class to it. That a class can be given to different tags, but an ID being its unique. Each element should have its own unique ID differently. And that's what we said. So now those class that we defined Those class that we define on those HTML is what we are going to be using in CSS now. That is what you use to address that particular HTML. So we said, how do we represent this? We present it by having a full stop before the name of the class that you have given it. That way CSS is going to read it as a class name. So by using the class name, then you add whatever style. So whatever element that has that class name is going to be affected by that particular style. So now you can have several options You can't just use the H1 tags to say, okay, maybe the first place you need it to be. You just need everything, like let me say the font size. You need all your H1 to be like 30 or 2, so you can use the type. But now you have like three different colors of or three different position of an H1. The first one is by the left, the other one is by the center, and the other one is by the right. You can't use the type selector now to tell it that this is that. By the time you put a text align on that type selector, it is going to affect all the H1, and that is not what you have. So that's why I say you use class mostly. So when each of these H1 have their own classes, you can style them. But because they are all of the same size of 30 pixels, you can leave it on the type selector. And that's what we said. Now, we said, why use class selector? Say, class selector provide flexibility and reusability in your style. They are perfect for creating consistent design across multiple elements without needing to repeat same style. And that's it, another thing we need. So without needing to repeat same style over and over again, we had last class we had an element and another element that were not in the same place, and we needed to we had to give them the same style. So we passed by using the class name, we gave them the same class name, and that we are already given the style same style to it. Now we have the ID selector. Now the ID selector too is like a spotlight. It allows you to target a single unique element on your web page. When you want to style an element with that is one of a kind, that is to use. Like we said that each element should have its own unique ID. So when you want something that is very unique on its own, you use the ID. So, but how do CSS know about this ID? You use an hashtag before the name of that ID, and that is how you let the CSS know that this is an ID. We can see that here in the example. Now we said the uniqueness of ID. So each ID should be unique within a page. Think of an ID as a fingerprint of an element. No two elements should share the same ID. So because no two elements is sharing the same ID, no matter what you put inside an ID, it is unique to that particular element. Now, why use an ID selector? ID selector are the most specific way to style an element, making them perfect for cases where you want absolute control over an element appearance. So classes can be used in multiple places. Then it could be touch, it will be touch, it will be touch. But when you want something unique pertaining to that particular element, you use an ID to it. Yeah. I see someone raised their hand or something the other time. Okay, nobody. Then let's keep going. Now back to the universal selector. We said the universal CSS universal selector. The universal selector in CSS is a one size fits all tool. It lets you apply style to every single element on your web page, no exception. Take it as casting a net over the entire page to make everything uniform or to reset the style. So how to use this, like I said, is just use the asterisk and that is all. Now, example of it versus selector in action is like when you put a particular style inside the universal selector, it affects every goddamn element in that HTML.
Ma, ma, your screen is not visible. Maybe
You
it
said?
is from my phone or all. Screen is not visible.
You said what?
Visible. Maybe it's from my phone or all.
I
Your
can't hear
screen is
you.
not visible.
Did anybody hear what you said? Mm, sorry, did anybody hear what you said?
Ma, I
Because I could
said
not.
your screen is not visible. I don't see your screen. The problem it
You
is
you
from
can.
my phone or all.
Okay, so let's confirm. Can anybody else not see my screen?
From my end,
Who
I'm
else
seeing your
cannot see?
screen.
All right. Who
I
else is
think
not
it's
seeing
from the
my
phone.
screen? All
Maybe you
right.
should just
Thank you.
resume
I
again
think
now.
your network is your issue, whoever that was. Try and disconnect and come back again. All right. So, and besides, we'll be sharing Jesus so you can read over. Majorly, I think all you need is the explanation to understand better. Now, things to keep in mind. While the universal selector is powerful, be very cautious because it can be heavy-handed, especially in large project as it affects every element. It might override other specific styles, so use it wisely. And that's why most times what we use inside the universal selector is just the margin and padding. I know I keep calling margin and padding and you don't really understand that. Don't worry, we'll get there soon. We're about to start that. But you understand the essence of margin and padding, and from last class that I explained is like you are removing any space that come by default. If you call writing your HTML, by default there are some spaces between when you write a P and a P, you see that space. Majorly you are removing all those default space so that you can now apply your own specific style on them. So like when you have a general font type that you want to use, maybe you want to use the font of Roboto throughout your whole project. So you put this kind of font inside the universal so that it affects everything in the page. Then you have like when we do box sizing for responsiveness, you put that to inside the universal because you want it to touch across every element in the project. But you don't go ahead and put in colors inside your HTML. Rather, it is better not to do that because you might end up having other colors and that universal might override other colors that you want. So it is crucial to know what to put inside the universal CSS and all that. As much as it's very powerful and all good, be very careful of what you put in there. Now we have something called group selector. Now the group selector is like you're multitasking your style. Instead of writing H1, you want to do H1, H2 separate. The fact that they all have the same style that you want to pass in through. Maybe you want all of them to have a particular color, like all your headings to have a particular color of red. So we use a group selector, and how does group selector works? You just use a comma to separate it from the particular type selector or class that you want to have. So it is not just the type, I think I call that. It's not just types that you can have a group selector. You can even use a group selector on class. So all that you have that. Then that's basically how you use group selector. As you can see, you just have H1 and H2. Yeah, you have that too. H2, E3 together because you are just passing one particular slide to all of them and you don't need to be repeating it over and over again. So what you should keep in mind is that while group selector are good for efficiency, always consider the specific need of your design. Overusing them can lead to unintended style, especially if you are working with nested elements or using more than one specific selector. So you need to be very careful of when you use a group selector. Maybe it's just something that you have overall and you want the same style over it. Then be careful of how you group them. Know what you want there. Check what is generalized. Because so that you don't start having too much unnecessary code and all that. Be very careful when you use these things. So that is the basic recap of last week class. I think I have tried to put everybody up to speed, have I? Those in class last week, as I have been able to bring everybody up to speed back. Nobody in class from last week that can tell us if we have come up to speed, if there was one or two things that we mentioned that I've not tried to touch. All right. In the absence of none, let's go to what we have today. And today we'll be discussing, I said last week that we'll be going now deep down into each of those CSS properties. So today we'll be discussing CSS color type. Now, CSS offers a variety of ways to define color for your web elements. These color types gives you flexibility to style background text border with precision. Whether you prefer name color or XS code or RGB value, CSS have you covered. So we have different type of colors. It's not like the color is different. It's still the same color, but different way of writing those color. I could say I want my text white, and which is just name color. Then we could say I want my text to be hashtag FFF, which is still white, but that is an X code. Then when you want to go for RGB, that should be now be I want my color to be RGB 255, no 255, 255, 255, and that is the RGB code. So, but all these still boils down to I want white. But how I write, I want that color white is what we're talking about here. So now we're saying name color. Name color are the simplest way to use color in CSS. Very simple, just write the name straight. They are predefined colors name like red, blue, green, and minimal. So you just go straight and you just say color red, background color blue. So you use them when you want quick and recognizable color name. As simple as that. That's straight. Now, the X color are written using the hashtag followed by a 6-digit code. Each pair represents red, green, and blue RGB value in hexadecimal. So when you have this color, I think I need to show you something. Where do I have our work here? So okay, so we'll be doing our CSS on our external code so that everything can just be there and our head can just be as clean as possible. Sorry about the noise. So now we've been using name, which is just doing brown or whatever. But now to use an hexadecimal, what we do is okay, let's just touch this. Come in. Yeah. This is basically what hexadecimal is. We take note of it by using an hashtag. Can you see that? Using an hash. Yep. Using an hashtag first, then you write the color code. Let me use the word disclaimer, like my friend Vito. You don't need to know these codes in your head. They are very much available on the web. You have them everywhere. You can just go check the X code, or you can see the way I did it. I wrote the name and I changed it to hexadecimal code if you want it to be. You don't necessarily need to hold these codes in your head, please. The default that you know is because they are just one or two things that you've used over and over, and then you can hold that one in your head because you use it over and over. But it's not compulsory. If you're even working and you're working with a designer, you already have your colors even predefined for you. So it's not as if you are just defining these colors yourself. So, like I said, disclaimer, you know about them. So you know that when you see this, oh, this is a color, you won't get surprised that what the hell did somebody just write. But you don't necessarily need to hold them in your head. I hope I've emphasized that very well. That's it. So this is an hexadecimal type. So there's a two ways to this, but it is not all colors that have that. There is a two ways to this, and this is not all about it in the sense that one, like when I mentioned for whites, let's do another, let's comment it out and do column. When I mentioned for white, I said you can do the hashtag FFFFF. But since he's saying alphabets, you can have it in 3, and it knows that that is white. Same thing goes for black too. For black too, you can do 0, I think. Yep. Or you can have it up to 636. That is black. So there are some colors that you have, not D or DD. DDD should be like gray. Yeah. Anything in that straight from like gray from, but there are some color like the one we have here in the brown that you can't just go short because each of its alphabet numbers has something different on it. So you see, I can't just go A52. Now that's like another color entirely. But do you understand? You can use it in, you can see it in the 3. So you can get to a place and you see an hexadecimal in 3. Don't be surprised. It's still an hexadecimal color code, but not all color code has that short form. Instead, you might end up changing from one color to another. So that is that. Know that and be able to tell the difference. But you don't need to hold the code in your head. You have it available as much as possible online. Then, yeah. So Excel colors are great for precision, especially when you design tools that generate color codes. So you just use Excel code. Excel code are very good, like they're good. Now there are cases where you use them like that. Now, especially when you want to go for shades of colors like that, you can't just use a name to give you shade color. It won't go all. Yeah. So by using X code or RGB code, you are able to add shades on those color, make it a way lighter or way darker, something like that. So RGB value. Now, RGB value are defined using the RGB function. Now, there's this thing, I think when we were doing primary color in school, so we had something like our primary color. Was it red, blue, and green? Yeah. So we now started changing color by when you say red plus green should give you this color, red plus this will give you this color, red plus blue should give you orange, something like that. That's basically what we are doing here in all the calculation of your um RGB. So basically that is it. And now we said that the RGB values, you are specifying the red, green, and blue values as number between 0 and 255, like I mentioned the other time. So using our code to check RGB value against from this out and the color. If you're adding a color and I want the RGB, see? So by default, with our help, we know that this should be red, this should be green, and this should be blue. So now you are specifying what color number you want. So if you are doing 255, which is still the red door, and 255 and 255, which is all of them at their greatest, you have white. So now tweaking it, let's say this should be 141 and this side coming to be like 100. You see, we're already having shades of colors. So if you can recall the mixture of this and this and this, so each color has a number specified and all that. So now using our example here, we said this should give us a shade of orange. Let's see. Will you give us a shade of orange? See what we come up with. We came up with a shade of pink. For sure. We have this, and yep, we are a shade of red, kinda. So it's more lighter than the actual red color and all that because it's okay. It's like this, see? Well, within the shade of red, so something like that. That way, you know. Now this is what we use. This is another way of generating color, which is the RGB, the red, green, and blue. That is basically what that is doing. But it is giving a value between 0 and 250. So if you want all this to be all red, all you have to do is make here 0 and make this 2. So this should be all red. But if you want it to be all black, it's 000 all black. And we want it to be all green, we want 255. Then it's all green. I want it to be all blue. You have 255 here. That is all blue. So that is it. That is the lectures of colors for you there. Then we have another way of color. Then you have the HSL color too. So RGB is very flexible. I can include transparency, use the RGB. Yeah, I was coming to that before we jump. I thought as much. So you see, we have this non-control Z. Then you can have an A to here in the sense that I remember making mention of that we have colors and you can get a transparency of colors. So by this is in percent, so we are going to do 0.3. When you do 0.3 of that color, we're telling it that I want it to have a 30% opacity to my color. And let me go live on this so that we can see the difference. Mhm. Yeah, can you see how faint that is inside right now? So that is what's the opacity level. Opacity is how bright it will look. So if we remove these first, so this is it. This is the um default, which is like the 100% of that color. So you're not telling it that I want it to get from 100% to like 30% is what we had done there initially. So let's do 0.5. I want it to be like 50%. And you can see the shade I've reduced. So this is when you say you use the shade of color, you pass shade and you reduce it. So we're using opacity. So for RGB to just add an opacity, you had an A, which is telling you the red, green, blue, and alpha. Alpha is basically the how it looks, the opacity of that color, and that's that. Now we can go to the HSL color. So we hope I've not lost anyone so far. No response. Please, I need a response. I'm not in the meet, so I won't be able to see a reaction. Hope everybody is able to follow on with what we are doing.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Are you raising your hand or you are giving an answer? Which one? Okay, let's go to HSL color. HSL stands for high saturation and light. It provides a more human-friendly way to define color. So just the way we define color with RGB, to do for HSL, you do the HSL function and you specify the colors. So inside here, this is what I'm using here. Let's do another color here and do HSL. Okay. New saturation and lightness. So let's say what do we have here? Which is this? Let's do 255. Do a saturation level of 100% and 64%. Just trust me, you can always get this online if you want it. But just do give me the HSL of this color. You can carry an X code save and ask for an HSL code and it will give you that. You don't necessarily need to hold it in your head. So this is a shade of, is it blue or purple that we have here? I don't know. Still blue. Yeah, and just like that, you already have your color in different shade again using the HSL. So basically, it's just your preference now to each of these color. One thing about all this how to write a color is for you to know that when you see this, you won't get all confused that what is this. You will know that they're actually talking about a color, but everybody is writing it in its own different way. We are seeing we've done the name, we've done the um Xcode. We've known that Xcode can be written in 3 or and 6. We've done the RGB and we've also said that we can add an opacity level to it. Now we have on the HSL. So know when you want to use some of this. Sometimes you might have to use two of it because you want to do an opacity and you have to do it. And the other codes can be just Xcode or name code. So it's just for you to know which is which, right? Now HSL is ideal when you want to experiment with lightness or saturation adjustment. So, like when I was trying to move with the brightness and opacity level of that other one, you can do this well with HSL. Just that is it. Now, choosing the right color type. Selecting the right color type depending on your project. For predefined color, like what we've been doing before, just go for the name. Now, for precision, maybe you have X and RGB and excellent. If you want flexibility, you use the HSL. Most times when you're working with a design, you have even X code more than name because now on the design you are going on different shades of color. So you get X code more. But we're not saying you cannot use anything, and that's what we're telling you. Know the right time to use any of them, which is what we basically say for just simple project that you're just going use your name color. Then for precision, very precise color, you use your X code and RGB. Then you want to play with lightning and all that, you use the HSL. Now, let's go into more details. Now, CSS, RGB and HSL. In CSS, two of the most flexible and commonly used color systems are RGB and HSL. This system allows you to define color with discretion and even add transparency for creative effects. Now, RGB stands for red, green, and blue. It works by mixing three primary colors to create a wide range of color. So even if that color does not exist, as long as you are using a number in within these three, between 0 and 250, and there's a number color in the three, you are definitely mixing a number already, and it is going to generate a color for you, no matter what. And that's why we say it is flexible. Unlike name, you are giving it that is just this color, unlike H code that you are giving it. H code now it is until you change one of the letter or anything, that's why you are going for another color. But with RGB and HSL, you have this tendency of mixing more colors by yourself. Then, and we've seen how to write this by using the RGB function. So you can also include transparency like I've shown us by using the RGBA, where the fourth value alpha control transparency. So we just use it to make it transparent. And you see, this is like telling the blue color to be at 0.5, exactly what we did. Now for the HSL color, HSL stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. It provides a more intuitive way to define color. The HSL function takes three parameters: the hue, the base color measured in degree within 0 to 36. For instance, 0 is red, 120 is green, and 240 is blue. Now, saturation is the intensity of the color, measuring as a percent. 0 is percent is grey color, 100% is 0% is grayscale, like it should be as a gray color, and then 100% is the full color. Now, lightness is that the brightness of the color we measure as a percentage. We're telling it either it is 0% black or 100% is white. So that way it is that. So let us use this their example and see what we have. Oh, we got green. Yep. So that is that. Now we said similar to RGBA, where we know the A is for transparency. HSL also support transparency with HSLA, the alpha, which we know. Is we are just adding the percent of what we want by how we want it to be, how transparent we want it to be. Either it's a 50% or 30% or 10%.
Which part is
Then
running this line?
ah, what did you say?
I just miss out the pairs, the classes. I just meet up now. I don't know what you can do. I just stated in the group and he said make I DM. I didn't reply. This is my first time. I just missed my phone.
Okay, let's just finish the class first, then we'll come over to whatever you need. Is that okay?
Okay, okay. Sorry for interrupting. Sorry. Just continue.
Then we have the RGB versus HSL. Using RGB, when you work with tools that provide RGB value,
Okay.
when you provide tools that have an RGB value, right, or when precision is needed for gradient, choose HSL. No, oh, it's use RGB when you work with tools that provide RGB value or when precision is needed to gradient. Then choose HSL when you want to experiment with lightness and saturation easily. So know when to pick these. We've emphasized that well. Know when to pick each of these. Know when to use each of these code value. So that's that. Now let's go to background color. Now we've been talking about the color type so far. So now we know we have different type of color type. So now let's go to the main CSS property. CSS properties. The background color property is the background color. Now the background color property in CSS allows you to define the background color of any element, whether it's solid, transparent, or mixed. Background color are fundamental in creating visually appealing decision. So, what is the syntax for the background color? The syntax is, as we know, you pick the selector. Now, inside the code block is where you write a key pair value, which the key is um, background color, and the value is whatever color you are passing to it. So, for example, we have a div, and the example is that we want a background color of light blue. So, using the H1 that we have here, so we can just write background color, and we want it to have a background color of this is the light blue as usual. So the thing that you already have, you see, it gives a light blue color to each one. Oh, I did that on H1 and H2. So give a light blue to it as the background color. So the background color is basically going to carry the whole space. It's not like it's carrying the whole space, like you're just telling it this is my background. So take this color and put it in my background. So basically the space that element that you are giving has is where it is where it's going to be, is where to put its color there. Basically that's all. Now we can use it name value like I've done. We can use it the X code using the X code, yeah. So you can either use it like the name value that we have here. The program color is all you use it in the X code, hexadecimal code here, and see it still works. And you can use it either in the RGB like this. Like now we all have our light blue back, or we use this. We use a very light blue, which is the XL code. You see, that's why we first understand the old type. See, we just know we are dealing with colors. Now we are specifying what kind of color do we want. We want the background color by telling it that that's the background. Now, how do you write the color is your choice, and you can see that with that we've written the color in 4 different ways. And we can have for a transparent color black. So we're telling it color black or at 30%. And we have that. You can see how faint that is. So now best practices, choose color that ensure good contrast for readability. Not like what I was doing there by picking light blue with a orange text and everything just scatter. So pick a color that is easy for readability. Then use CSS variable to manage color consistency over your site. Then test your design on different different test to design different devices and light mode. So know which color to pick at which time, which type of color to use. Now, background images. Background images. Sometimes you can come to some pages and see that on top an image there's like a text on it. So those images, the background image instead of a color now, and then the text is on it. So you have a CSS background image. So the background image property in CSS is used to set an image as a background of an element. This property can take a URL pointing to an image file so that you can use gradient function to for modern design. Do we still have an image? Yeah, we have one unique image here. Okay, so let's see. Let's get something different. Okay, let's use this hashtag ID. This ID. I think I have it somewhere. Yeah. Now we want to make it a background image instead of background color. So you have background image. So a background image take a URL. If you remember when we were treating image in HTML, we did source. So that's the same thing I want to give it the source. But you use a URL function here to tell it that this is the source. Then give it the name of the image for it to locate it. So if where your image is as far as possible, so this maybe we have that already. Yeah, and you can see we already have it as the background image for that section already. So that is basically how you use it. You use a background image. The background image is to give a particular place when you need to give it an image on the account. That will be like the background color for that particular function. That will be the image for that particular function. Now, um, next one is okay. Now that's it. Now here are some examples of how you use the background image property. Like we have seen, so a simple image, you have a basic image background, and you just pass the image. Now we have another thing called linear gradient. Now linear gradient is like using a color to do it instead of actually passing an image to it directly. So maybe you have a color that is a mixture of two colors. So you have what we call a linear gradient function. So how do we write it? You specify to where you want it to go to. Is it to right or to left? I think it should be to left, or to the bottom, or to the top. Do you understand? That is to where you want. When then you pass in the first shade of color you have to give it, then you pass it the second shade of color. By that you're telling you need it to have two shades of color. That's the point of the two. And that's the point of the linear gradient. So let's do to right. Let's see how it will turn out to look like. And let me see. So okay. To right. That means you're telling it to this side. Start from here to the right. So you can see the other color down to this color. I'm very sure you'll have seen where they have a mixture of color and it's something. And it's looking way cuter than the color that we were using. That's just it. So from where to where is all we're telling it. So if we change this one to top, I was missing the color. So you see, starting from the line down to the top, like from the top, so here to the top. And if you want it to the bottom, that is the direction I want it to go. Then the color change. This is from, and this is the to. So basically, that is it. Now, that is one way of using a linear gradient and a background image. Another one is having a multiple image combined. You can have both the URL and a unique and the linear gradient together by using a URL function, like we said, then a comma separating them, and I have the part that I am going to on my image, and that way we have the two together, but one overriding the other. Then you have that. So let's use this color and see if there will be any changes. Probably. We have from white to ash color. Not precisely, but you can combine both. The reason is when the image is not showing that one can show one of that. So for best practices is that optimize your image for web use to ensure fast loading. Use gradient or plaster for scalable design. Then ensure text remain readable over background by adjusting contrast. So if you're using a dark background, make your text light. And if you're using a light background, make your text dark so that it can be very visible and your usage can see. The user can see what you are reading. Like now, see the way we have these colors and you can't really read them. I could use a white on this and then the text come brighter. So just know how to use them. Now the CSS background property. Now the CSS background property allows you to control the appearance of an entire background. This includes the property for color, image, position, size, and more. Like let's call this the shorthand for background. Now, combining this property enable you to create visually appealing web design. Now, common background property is that below are you have the background color, the background image. Also, having an image, you will definitely should have the position. You have the background size, the background repeat, then the background attachment. Yeah, like if you notice our image appeared twice, it's coming twice, right? Yeah. So now for background color, we deal with I will deal with background image. Now we are telling the image where to start. That is basically where background position works. That's what background position does. And we are telling it the background position, I want it to be at the center. So the image should start by the center one. These are image changing color for me to be. The should start from the center one. Then we want to give it the size of cover. No, she should take the whole entire screen. Should cover the entire screen. We want it to be cover. Contain is that it should just stay at the size that is auto is like remain how you are, anyhow you come, stay there. Contain is stay within the this thing. Cover is like take the whole full width of everything, and that is cover. So see, can you see at cover increase the image is like it's expanding because we want it to cover it. But if I've stayed on auto, you see the image is trying to stay within the size. Then if we stay on contain, it should come back. So it's trying to contain it like that. Just contain the image there, basically. But we want it to cover. So we are changing to cover. We're changing to cover. Then we have the background repeat. Now you can notice that our image is repeating coming twice. So we have the background repeat none. I forget that then you do no repeat. When you do the no repeat value, the image should just come once instead of twice. You see, use the continue to see. Yep, to use that to see too. So the contain, you see now the image is no more repeating everywhere it's going. The cover is making it expand. That's why we're looking at it that weirdly. and we are not having a full screen. So it's trying to save the first image, second user, and that. So we have it full. Now we have the background attachment. So you contain the scrolling behavior of the background image. So you have the background attachments where you sit here and we have it to fix. So it does not scroll. Like in this case we are scrolling some, yeah, did you see scrolling some things over it like that? As long as it's within the elements, that the element is still going to be moving up, it does not scroll. Even the images does not scroll. See other comes over it and that's it. It's literally not scroll, so I fix it to a position it should be. So in the case you have a background image that you are using for the whole project has a background image. Instead of the image to be scrolling with everything, you can put the image to be fixed. And so the image just stay there and your text just scrolls on it basically. So this is the end of today's class. Any question please? Any question? Aliu? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Aliu,
No question. Yes, ma'am. No question.
Okay, good evening.
good evening.
Okay, my question is, I see that when using colors, it
Mm.
doesn't type the name of the color like red, blue, or green. You use sometimes numbers, sometimes mixture of numbers and alphabets. So how do I get to know those numbers or mixtures? Or can I
You
just
said
use
sometimes I
using
use
the
what?
name
Oh, I think you missed the part where we're
numbers?
talking about the types. I think you missed where we're talking about the types of colors, where we said we have different types of colors. Where is that? Yep.
I
We have different type of colors and we set the name colors where you can just strictly say the name. Then the XS code, it has to do with number alphabet that you're asking. And we're talking about the
okay,
RGB2 that has to do with number. RGB stand for the red, green, and blue. Then you have the
okay,
XL, which stand for hue, saturation, and lights. But we just said there are times we need them. So seeing all of them, we are still talking about color. You can still write red in these four ways. But
okay,
no, so that when you see somebody writing it, you don't get confused. That is it. Most times when you're working with a designer, you end up using X. You don't even use name. But for you that maybe are just doing a simple class something now, you see, you can use the
yeah,
name straight up. We said the same, but for precision, you use X. Now, when you use Excel, when you want to tweak so many things about the color, and when talking about when we're changing the opacity, how light it should look or how dark it should look, use HSL and RGBA, things like that for those ones. So that's, I think I've answered that question. All right.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah. Castro.
Oh, okay. My own question is, when you were hovering around those color properties, the values themselves, there was
Mm.
this color palette popping out. I don't know if that's an extension or you're pressing a control key. I don't know.
No. It's something that comes with VS Code. As long as you see you over on any property, it gives you that. So when you over on a red, it gives you the option like that. So this way you can actually make it tweak. This part is your color, so you might end up picking another color that you want to change from. And the moment I touch this part, I have changed it to RGBA because I want to. This part had to do with the opacity. I'm like, okay, this one has to do with the opacity of it. So this is something that comes with the VS Code. When you over on your color, you see that. So it's just to make work easier for you. It's a VS Code thing, nothing else.
Okay. And then does it work with all the color types or just
Yeah, it
RGB
works with
and
all the color types as long as it's this. I'm coming. Let me see. See, can you see RGB as it on top? It just shows as long as the color. See for HSL, it knows, and you can use it to change from HSL. See, to RGB to XL and all that back to what you have. Do you understand? So it works round.
okay.
Yep. As long as it's a color, that's what matters. Then who else? I thought Iyano raised hand.
Okay, good evening, ma.
Good
Thank you
evening.
very much for the class.
Yeah, you're
My
welcome.
question is concerning the background image.
Okay.
Now, if I want to apply an image to the background of a particular page,
Yeah.
how do I do that? And again, how do I do it that it's the contents on the page
Mm.
will be
Mm.
visible enough for
Mm.
user interaction?
Yeah, that was what we just
So
mentioned lastly. Yeah. So this was what we just did. We said there are two ways of doing background image. First, the way you are specifying background color here is just because we want to store background color. Now, this is where we did background. To do background image, you change it from the key is background image, and they use the URL function, and then you pass in the where you have that image. Now our image is directly on the root folder. So the case this image was in another folder now, we have do this slash the folder name, then the image, and by default it knows the image, and that's why here you can see it has that image there showing already. So these other ones, where are you? The other things we add that is to give a more defined things to the image. We want the position of the image to be center. We want it to cover around. We want it to not repeat, because we had cases of where the image was repeated, and then we now have the background attachment, which is to tell it fixed so that when you scroll or not, it just stay there. So basically, to do an image, you use a URL. Just do background image, the URL. The URL is just telling it that this is the image. This taking it to, they're telling it the path to the image that you want it to use. Basically, that's all.
okay, I was even talking about a whole page. A whole
Yes, you
page
can use
now.
it on the whole page. So basically, we can just move this. Let me copy this and place it on the body element. Using the type, just the body, using the type, and pass this as a background image, and I pass this inside here. And cover this. Save. We have to in this class. Yeah. Now can you see that? It's already everywhere. So you can have it on the whole
Yes.
page. Yep. So it's not a thing of just one place. You can have it everywhere. So when I
Okay.
go to
Please, one more thing. Now,
yeah.
just as it is on this whole
Mm-hmm.
page,
Mm-hmm.
it's is there a way I can, like, faint the image so that
And
the content
paint the
on the
image.
image will be more visible?
Yeah, now
Or
that is when you use the text, the color. Now I can now specify that the color of whatever text now that I want, that all my text should be white, something like that. So you see, by white, some of the text start coming out. That's when you do color contrast. So we're talking about when your image is on a like a bit dark or light, you use a color that should appear more on top. Like that will be way clear on top. Now you know definitely black cannot work, but look at those texts in white. They are visible enough to be seen. Do you understand? So that is it. You just use a contrast with your image and your text. Know when to use text and know when to use the other one. I think we have that here when we're discussing background property. So we said something like use optimize image to use high contrast color to ensure text readability. So make sure the text reads with what you are doing. Do you understand? That's basically it.
all right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So sorry to cut you. Can you also apply opacity to this background image?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. I've not tried it. Most times we don't apply opacity to a background image. The only time you apply opacity is when you are using a linear gradient, which is this guy. So in the case you are not using the URL and you are using the linear gradient, which is this, so you can put an opacity on this color because it's the color that you are giving an opacity. But the image is just coming as it is. You're not adding anything to that image. So it's basically when you're using the linear gradient, you add opacity because that's a color that you are touching. Any more question? If none, Yusuf take over.
Please, will the video be
My
sent to the group? So will the video be sent to the group, video of this class? Okay. All right.
so, sir, what about the revision of the last session? Okay, okay, we wait the recorded video. So thank you. We can leave. Okay, thank you.